Right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Armenian mission trip recap that we want to do with you this afternoon. We're very excited to share with you what we did there, and I'm hoping that this inspires you to get involved in mission trips. You don't always have to go on a mission trip to be involved. You can always pray for us. You can give us financial support. But we would love to have you with us as well as we do different mission trips. And in the bulletin, you'll notice there are a number of mission trips coming up. And I am the person you need to get hold of if you want to go on those. And please feel free to get hold of me and ask any questions you want. So I'm going to take you on a journey through the Armenian mission trip. This is some of the people that went with us. So let me come to that in a minute. So for those of you who are not quite familiar where Armenia is, Armenia is east of Turkey, south of the Black Sea, and right below Georgia. And the very southern tip of Armenia actually borders on Iran, and then it also borders on Azerbaijan. So it's right in the Caucasus, not a very big country. You could probably drive from one side to the other in 7 hours. And that's where we went, and we spent 2 weeks there in July. So the big thing about going to Armenia and going to Yerevan in particular is Mount Ararat, right? And unfortunately in summer, that's what Mount Ararat looks like. It's very hazy. You're still a snow cap, but it's very hazy. In winter, it's beautiful. But that's what you see every day when you get up. So what I'm going to go through with you today, I want to go through who went with us, our missionaries, what mission work did we do, how did we work with the churches there. I'm going to then share a little tourist stuff with you because when you go that far, you do have to go and see a few things. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about next year. So who went? And my thing just stopped working, Mark. I heard a beep beep and I'm not working anymore. Sorry. So while he's getting that to work, one of the things we're going to talk about is the churches. And just so that you realize, there are almost 3 million people in Armenia. And we have about 500 church members. So you can imagine when a group of us come there and start ministering in the churches and working with the members, how incredibly inspiring that is for them, because it's a small group. In Yerevan itself, there's probably 300 members. So that's why we want to talk about that a little bit. Anybody want to say anything? I don't know what happened. Nope.
Here, try this one.
I can't move
Test,
anything.
test.
Yeah, well, while we're killing time, I'll say one unexpected thing from the mission trip that was beneficial for me. So I was very fortunate to go with my wife Lisa, my daughter Emma, and my son Micah. So it was kind of like a family adventure. And anytime you go someplace that far, that's unique, you can't help but to bond more. What I was not expecting is that my family got extended. It's good to come and sit in the pews in church on Saturday morning, and it's easy to treat it like something you do once per week. And you're not as influenced as if you spend time together every day, eating breakfast and lunch and dinner together, and you're all have the same mission. You're out there for a reason. And that was unexpected. So I increased my family by the people that came on the trip. So that was an unexpected benefit.
And we're happy to have you as part of the family. It's a great family.
Well, to tag in with that, we were there to build not a church, but to build relationships with the people that were there. And that was such an enriching experience to bond not just with the church members who were small in number, but to also bond with the people that extended beyond them. When we had the Health Expo in Abovian, I sat with a young man and listened intently to every word he said that I could not understand. I've developed that skill because I have to often have meetings with parents who don't speak English, and so I can listen very intently and nod my head, and they think I understand everything that's being said. So this woman, when he was done talking with her, she turned and spoke to me in English, and she said, "You understand Russian pretty well." And I said, "No, just a very little, but I had learned enough to ask if her girls were siostra." And so she was happy to hear one word from me in Russian, but it was just a joy to not only bond with the church members there, but interact with the people that we came in contact with. They're really dear people. And at the end of the flag camp in Abovian, we had a smaller group there, but there were 2 children who came back. It reminded me of Jesus when he healed the lepers, and one came back. 2 came back, and they tapped on the window, and they were holding up their beanie babies that they were so excited that they had gotten. And so we went out and oohed and awed over the beanie babies, and then he took the bracelet that he had made at the camp and handed it to me. So I was really struck with how giving the people were. They don't have as much as we do here in America, but they're very appreciative, and it was more unspoiled, I guess I want to say. They don't have all of the things that our kids have, and they just were so appreciative of the small things they did, and that's what struck me.
Thanks, Debbie.
So I would just want, before we get started on, this is a place where I lived actually for 7 years and worked in the Caucasus. And I just want you to understand a little bit of the background, and it'll help give preface, and give some context to some of the comments that will be made today. Armenia is the first Christian country in the world. They became Christian in 301 AD. When the king accepted Christianity, he went insane. And there was a missionary there. This is the legend. We actually went to the place where the missionary was in a hole for 13 years. He thought he'd killed this missionary, but he went insane, and his sister said, "You call for that missionary, he'll come and he'll pray for you and you'll be healed." He was, and he said, "Okay, we're a Christian country," so he marched his soldiers across the river and baptized them, quote unquote, and Armenia's been Christian ever since then. So you might think, well, it's a Christian country. Why are we going there? I will tell you, to work as Adventist, it's just as difficult to work in a country like that as it is like in an Islamic country, except that you get a little bit more freedom to just be there. Because the Armenians are like, "Why are you here? You're a Christian, and how old's your church? 170 years, that's it? Well, we've been around 1700. So the church there, whenever they do anything, there's a lot of pressure from the society not to do anything and not to steal people. And especially they've been in a war with Azerbaijan recently, so you're dividing our nation when we need to be united, and it's our religion that saved us. And who are you? And it doesn't matter if you're Baptist or Pentecostal or Adventist. They'll call us all sectants. So there was one thing we wanted to have the mayor come out and be with us for a dedication this time, and we'll talk about that. He wouldn't come because he didn't want to be seen in the village with a bunch of sectants there. So when you become a Seventh-day Adventist in a country like that, to some degree you're leaving your nationality almost. And so it's not an easy decision, and when the church does something, a lot of times it's met with, a lot of hostility, yeah, a good word. And so when we're there and we can do something and then people are appreciative and happy and the village comes out, it's hard to describe in words what that does for the local church. because we're guests. They don't want to kick us out. And all the kids ended up loving what we did, and they see that we have a different spirit than just trying to fight for we're Christians and don't come and talk to us about anything. Because really, at the end of the day, not many people, even though they are the first Christians and the best Christians in the world, they know very little about the Bible and about salvation in Christ. So anyway, that's the context of what we're dealing with and what the local church is dealing with.
And it's talking about how we are magnets there. One of the things we get told a lot is, wow, you guys are so happy. You're smiling all the time, and it's really, we really do make a really positive impact. All right, my slides are working. So the group that went, there were 18 of us that went. We've got 10 of them up here with us, including myself. The others are at college. They are away at college. So we had 6 18-year-olds with us. And I've got 2 of them here, Evan and League. Thank you for being here. The others are all out of town. And then we had Emma with us. She was a little younger, but we were so happy to have 7 youth as part of that 18. We also had a non-Markham Woods member, Barry Barton, with us. He came to us from California. His uncle has been doing research at Mount Aragot, which we'll show you in a moment, about Noah's Ark. That's where we believe Noah's Ark is. At least some of us believe that's where it is. And he's been actually doing some excavation and research work there, and so he sent his nephew with us. And so there we are, very good-looking group. So what did we do? Mission work, and I just want to thank, I just blanked, Karina Anderson for doing our t-shirt. Where are you? Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. There you are. Knew you were there. Okay, good. Yeah, and you guys are Armenian, so that really is a nice connection. So thank you for doing our t-shirt. You did it last year and this year. So what we did is we opened a playground. We did 3 flag camps. We did those flag camps. 2 of them we did for 3 days. 1 of them we did for 4 days. We did 2 medical clinics, which was really 6 days of medical clinics. So I'll have Lisa talk a little bit about that. And then we did a health expo. So I'm going to take you through that quickly. This is the opening of the playground in Marganush. So this is a playground that you guys sponsored. You made it possible for us to put a playground right next to this church, and we had a whole group there opening it. This is the playground that Doug mentioned. The mayor didn't quite want to come, but we went and saw him afterwards. But we had a large group there. This is what it looked like last year. Now, it's not quite done. It's going to be done this month. But while we were there, that's what it looked like. So we have a fence, we have concrete, we've got some equipment there, and we were able to use it for the flag camp, but by the end of this month, it will definitely be complete, and we'll show you pictures of that at that point. So when you do a flag camp, and this is the one at Marganush, there's a number of classes you have. So you have a singing class, and they love that. And then Doug or somebody normally does the character class, and so we had that. And you can see in this camp, I think we ended up with Bible class, character class. And Doug spoke to them about David, right? It was all about David this time. And in this group, I think we ended up with 85 children from this village, which was just about every child in the village. We also have craft class, and then we have games. And you can see we're utilizing the playground there for the games, even though it was quite hot. And so this is where we had done a flag camp last year. So it was very interesting to come back and see a lot of the same children, just a little taller, but we also had a lot of new kids, and so that was really, really exciting for us. So they all learn a march, and remember, these kids don't speak English, so it's always interesting, but let me show you what they did. Forward march! So they do pretty well, and you can see as we pan there, you can see some of the people that we have. Evan and Doug, and there's Barry, Debbie, Kathy, and I think you saw Emma's head as we came around, and Mark on there. Anyhow, we were all there. My video skills, so forgive me if it's not great. And then they also sing. Now I'm going to show you the song they sing in Armenian, but we'll show it to you in English. My God loves me. The wonders I see. The sun shines through. So those are some of the things we teach them, and they really knew those songs because a lot of them had learned them last year. That's the team that was there to take care of the 85 kids, and we're really glad to have them there. So Doug, do you want to talk a little bit about this for us?
Yeah. So we talk about coming, we call this full circle. So what are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids in that picture. Those are all children of kids that Tanya and I had in the first flag camp we ever did in Armenia back in 2002. And they're all Assyrians. Not Syrians from Syria, but Assyria, like the kingdom of Assyria in Bible times. So these are Tiglath-Pileser and Sennacherib's, great-great-great-grandchildren, which is just really cool. The girl there, Olia, she came into the church through an Assyrian missionary there. It's a whole Assyrian village, and it's right next door to Markham. And so when she heard, she and her friend, they were some of our best, and her brother were some of our best flag campers. They just had bright eyes every day. They were so into it. And so it was so cool this year to have their kids in our camp all these years later. And we actually went to their house. I think somebody else is going to talk about that. Yeah. Where they sing songs about Nineveh and the good old days. So.
Yep. They're always talking about Nineveh. Yeah, that's correct. So, all right. Whoops. And then at the end of each flag camp, and I only put it in on this one, we did give them a gift. We gave them a little black backpack, and they had a book in there and a pen. And then we were very, very blessed. One of our members here, Jane Allen, gave us a whole lot of Beanie Babies. And everybody on this team had a bag of Beanie Babies in their suitcase. And we took them all over there, and we put one of those in there as well, and they were a real hit. As Debbie said, they were very excited to get their Beanie Babies, so we were excited to do that. And you can see us giving those out. All right, then we did, let me go back. Then we went to Alaverdi. Now, Alaverdi is about 3.5 hours north of Yerevan. It's up in the mountains, much cooler up there. And again, we did a 3-day flag camp up there. And this, we had never done one there before. Never, ever done a flag camp, at least in recent history, in Alaverdi. So this was new for us. Again, we had craft class. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about how Doug tells a story with an interpreter. You're going to have to pop the sound up on this one because it's a little quiet. So.
Try it again. So try it again. Silverhead right in the middle. So next time, when the little sheep are out there, big bear!
So Doug really gets into it. So, but you can see we've got to do the translation. So it's always good to have a good translator with you. And that translator was actually Arman, who is one of the missionaries that we are supporting in. And he's actually on. I don't know if we can hear him, but we'll bring him on in a bit. But he's actually on Zoom with us right now. So we did singing class, and I just had to show this video because these little boys, you'd say little boys singing class, really. They got so into it, and I'm hoping the sound works, but I'm going to pray that it works. But David and his They just loved their singing class. I just couldn't believe it. And then, of course, we also did games over there. And then I'm going to show you, these kids had never been in flag camp before. We had, I think, what was it, about 65 children in Ala Verde, if I remember correctly. They had really never been in a flag camp before, and you should see how they did their march. I've got to show you because they were almost the best. So let me show you that, if it will work.
I don't know, but I've been told. Flag campers are good as gold. Am I right or wrong? You're right. Are we weak or strong? We're strong. Sound off. 1, 2. Do it again. 3, 4. Break it on down.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So they really were pretty good. I was pretty impressed that they did that well. So actually at that flag camp, we had a little boy who came with a broken arm. And Lisa splintered that arm up for him, and we called his parents and said, you better... With popsicle sticks. And we got him to his parents and got him off to the ER to get it properly done, because it was a really bad break. I think it was both bones in his wrist. But he was back. He was so upset that he was missing flag camp, and he was back the next day with his arm in a sling, but he was back.
Yeah, just adding on to that, his arm was broken before he came, but he didn't want to miss camp. So he came with the broken arm that wasn't splinted at all. And of course, we didn't know. And in the middle of the camp, it got worse as one of the kids were playing around with another kid. And it was probably a hairline fracture, I guess, to begin with, and it got much worse. But even after that, he didn't want to leave camp. We had to force him to go to the ER. So
and it must have been excruciatingly painful, but he didn't
with all
even
the pain,
cry.
he wanted to stay.
Yeah, he wanted to stay. He did not want to leave. I mean, this is like a 10-year-old, right? I mean, it's pretty amazing. This is really important to these children. So, all right. Then we did a flag camp in Abovian. Abovian is more of a city, sort of just a little bit north of Yerevan, maybe a suburb like Longwood would be of Orlando, same kind of concept. It's not really that separate. We had about 25 children here on the best day. It's much harder to do flag camps in the cities than it is to do in the villages. If you do it in the village, you get a lot more kids. The city, it's a little harder, but the impact is the same. So I don't want anybody to think that 25 kids isn't important. That's really, really important. And they were learning, this is how they learn the song. So I wanted to kind of show you, this is how they teach the song.
We're strong. Are we weak or strong? We're strong.
So it takes a lot to teach them because they don't know English. So you've got to kind of go through that with them, but they really learn well. And then, of course, we had character class. You can see Evan there. I think he was playing Samuel. Are you playing Samuel there?
Yeah.
The prophet?
I'm Samuel there. I'm sitting here picking out David from all his brothers. In the character class, we did 3 lessons on David, about how he was picked amongst all his brothers, and then how he slew Goliath. And the third one was about Bathsheba, and that was a pretty fun one to have to work around, because some of these kids are kind of young, so we had to kind of tiptoe on that one a little bit, but I feel like we got the point across pretty.
You guys did a good job of keeping that G-rated.
Yeah.
That was good.
I wasn't quite sure why Doug actually picked the Bathsheba story to tell 10-year-olds, but nonetheless, we did it.
I just want to say that the boys were not expecting to play that role, that Scott was going to be our storyteller, but they really rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was more of like an improv thing too, because Scott got laryngitis.
Yeah.
So
I was all excited because I had been sometimes helping Doug with the character class. In fact, there's a funny story with that gift from the first week, but sticking with this story for now. So I have struggles with my voice anyway, but I could tell something was wrong the night before, and I was really excited because I really wanted to be Doug, the guy that's scared to get, it's like it was my turn now, right? And they were counting on me to do that because Doug and Belinda were at different village, and this was the second week, and I was in charge of the second week, and so then this night before, and I'm going this is not good. Sure enough, I woke up the next morning, my voice was completely gone. And I'm supposed to be the main director of the march and the character class and everything. So I got our young guys together and I said, well, I kind of wrote it. I can't talk.
Yeah, you wrote it down in a document.
So I kind of just gave them a sketch. I had actually videoed Doug doing all of this the first week. And so I showed them the video and I had kind of sketched it out for them. And then they just went with it. But we discovered a couple real good actors in the class. So it was really amazing because when we went last year, we didn't have a group of youth with us. It was all us older people.
Us older people, thank
Yes,
you.
us old people. And so they brought a refreshing difference anyway. But how they stepped up and in probably about half an hour's practice, they put together what was going to be the thing. And I just, God works in mysterious ways. I was here when we did the Dominican travel thing, and Pastor Lauren was talking about how anytime you go on a mission trip, you have to be prepared to adapt. And I felt like she looked right at me when she said that, and I'm going like, what does that mean? And then this happened. And so I just, all the youth on the trip not only did a fantastic job, but they did it last minute and adapting last minute, and they knocked it out of the park.
I just want to say I really think that was a God thing.
Yes, I agree.
Because kids respond differently to other kids.
Yeah,
And I think they had a bigger impact because they were younger.
I agree.
And no offense
I
to
agree.
you,
That
Scott.
was a God
but,
thing.
It was a God thing. It was
You
meant
can
to
say,
be.
God took away my voice so they could find theirs.
That's right. Amen.
I just want to give credit. We're speaking of Evan and then Ben and Leif, who will be joining us on screen
And
here in a few
Micah,
minutes.
maybe Micah as well.
Was Micah?
Maybe.
No, it was.
Micah was up with us
Okay.
in Alaverdi.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you, I was a little nervous taking 6 18-year-olds with us. I was like, oh, really? Boy, these guys are like the best. I don't know how we would have made it without them. They added just a whole new dimension. I'm so proud of them, and it was wonderful.
I do have a funny story to share regarding character class the first week when Doug was doing it.
Yeah.
So y'all saw some of his
Antics.
actions and antics with doing the first day character class, the Bible story class. The second day was David and Goliath. And so with Armand and Doug doing the show about Goliath, we added me as an actor on the second day. And I was going to play Goliath. So to appear taller, I stood on a chair about the same size as these so that I was like over 8 feet tall. And then when it got to the point of the sling and everything, and we had our own little David from their group that, and so I went like this, and then I fell off the chair and went through all of these throes of death, really playing it up, et cetera, et cetera. And the kids just loved it, except for one. There was one kid that apparently ran into the room next door and ran to one of the workers that were helping us out there. And he came in, closed the door, and he was trembling in his chair and told the lady, she said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Somebody just died out there."
Sure. So, all right, so continuing with the Bobian, sorry. They have the games they did outside, and then they did their singing class. And this is the song in English. So just adorable, and these kids really get in your heart. And so I think, that was quite an impact, 85, 65, and 25, so that's a lot of children.
Yeah. I also have a funny story about Abovion, too.
Yes.
It was, as we were doing it, these kids got more comfortable around us. And so by the third day, Ben, Leif, and I, we were, since we were running the outdoor games, we were out there waiting for our next group to come by. And one of the kids came out early, and we were just kind of playing volleyball with him. And you could tell he was getting more comfortable with us. And he came up to me, and he asked me, because some of these kids speak a little bit of English, he comes up to me and he goes, "Do you have a wife?" And I'm like, no, not yet. He's like, you have facial hair, so you must be older, right? Like, not quite. But it was
He was
fun.
ready to find you one, I'm sure. So
He was out there
cute
looking out for
kids.
me.
Cute kids. So those were the flag camps, and then we did in Obovian, where we did the flag camp. We also did a health expo. We did this for 2 days. Half of the group did it, and you can see us sort of setting up banners there. There's basically 8 principles of health, so they do a station for each principle. And on the banner, they've got it in English, Russian, and Armenian. So remember, you've got to do all 3. And so you can see everybody setting up, Debbie, Kathy, doing all their work there. And each person was given a booth, and then they had an Armenian in their booth, as you were mentioning, that sort of helped you talk to the people as they came through. So what I'd like to show you here is there's a small video there to just sort of take you around. It was done in a park. They played lovely music while everybody sort of came around to each station. Debbie. Hey, Debbie. Kathy at the food. Very calming atmosphere. Scott. League. Micah. And then they ended with a physician. So at the end, oops, I keep doing that. At the end, there was a physician. So if you visited each of the 8 booths, you sort of had a little document signed and you collected information, and then they ended with a physician. So kind of a really cool thing. And they actually had people that came back both days to see them. So very nice. You can see, I will say Evan absolutely rocked the air booth. He did really well with his little tests there. League, I think you were on Trust, no? Temperance. He was on Temperance, which is a very big conversation in Armenia. Temperance is not something that happens automatically there, for sure. Kathy on food, you can see everybody had there. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I had an experience I really thought was neat. I was handing out the food, and the lady that was working with me was the chef for the vegetarian restaurant that they used to have there called Dr. Veggie. And it used to be very popular. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe you know more of that story. Yeah. But anyway, so the church that we were at, this was right next door. And it was this park here that we had access to, which was really nice. But the church was actually the bottom of a big, tall, apartment building. And so this lady was just coming across on her daily walk from work, and young lady. And so she was like, what are you guys doing here? She spoke English because she had a tech position in a big company, and she had to know English. So I could talk to her really good. It was nice. And so she said, what are you guys doing here? And so I was telling her what we were doing, and I said, would you like to participate? She said, I was really just coming across the road and getting ready to see my grandma who lives in the apartment building up there. And I said, you might as well just, participate. So she said, well, maybe and then she got to asking, she said, well, who are you? I mean, what is this group? And so I told her that we were a church group and everything, and she said, that's really interesting. I've never heard of this church before, and here my grandma lives here, and I see her almost every day. And so I told her a little bit about Seventh-day Adventists and everything, and I said, so how about you? And she said, well, I'm an atheist. She said, you probably don't want me to go through here. I said, oh, no, sure, we love you too, and we laughed a little bit. And she said, well, I would really love to come to America. She wanted a picture with me and everything, because I think she thought, oh, I know an American. And then she brought another friend over there who wanted a picture with me too. But it was just kind of funny. And she said, I really want to come visit you sometime. I said, well, come to Florida, And so she's been in touch with me on Facebook since then. Who knows what kind of thing might develop from that. Yeah. But I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. We are definitely a draw. So, I mean, if the Armenians did this on their own, they would get people there, but with us there, it's always more. It's always more. So those were the mission activities we did, and then the churches. So we were there for 2 Sabbaths, but we impacted 6 church services, so we were busy. So on the first Sabbath, we impacted 4 churches. Micah preached at the Shangavit Church, so he went over there, and Armand was his translator, and so we're very grateful. Lisa and Mark, you did a great job with that child, really good, and he preached. And Leif Brahmi preached at Ararat Church. Now that's something to put on your resume. I've preached at Ararat Church. I think that would be kind of cool. And just did a great job. And Taron, who actually was also our medical translator, he's in medical school in Armenia, was his translator. Then Doug preached at Marganish, and then we attended the Farsi church in the afternoon. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later if we have time when we're not streaming anymore.
And I am just going to jump in for Leif really quick.
Yes.
But, I was there for his
That's right.
thing, and his sermon was very impromptu. We found out the night before that he would be preaching,
that's
and
right.
he managed to put together a very impactful sermon. There was people in that room crying because it was such a great sermon he delivered. So
how very cool to have two of our 18-year-olds preach in two different churches. Then Doug preached at the Nardos Church, which is the main church in Yerevan. The second Sabbath we were there, and then we attended the Farsi church in the afternoon. And actually on that Sabbath afternoon, we baptized 6 individuals. And I'd like to talk about that a little later. All right. We also had the privilege of having a concert, or maybe it was an evening with Armenia's top modern composer. Edgar Gayanjamyan. Yeah, I can never say it right. But Edgar is an Adventist, and he runs the performing arts school for the government in Yerevan. And he is the top composer. You can go and check him out on YouTube. Very, very famous Armenian composer. And he spent time with us on the second Sabbath afternoon, and we sang together. He played some of the songs he has, and he's written one song in English for a youth congress. We all sang that together. Just a delightful human being. And even though we have so few members in Armenia, we have some extremely prominent Armenians that are Adventists, and Edgar happens to be one of them. All right, so that was the mission work we did. I'm going to run through some tourist stuff with you, because when you go that far, you've got to see some stuff. And this is a very, very ancient country, a lot of ancient history here, and just a lot to see. That's really, really inspiring. And it's just hard to imagine not. So this is Mount Ararat. This is slightly north of Yerevan. So whereas Mount Ararat is south of Yerevan, this is north of Yerevan, and this is where many of us, I know Scott for sure, and me and Doug, and maybe some others, believe that this is where Noah's Ark really did land. It makes a lot more sense. You can see the 4 peaks. So when you read the Spirit of Prophecy and you read the Bible, it says Noah looked out, and what did he see? He saw the mountain peaks, not peak, peaks. Right? If you're on Ararat, you'd only see one. You may not even see it. But here is sort of a cradle. So we always go and take a trip up here. And this is where Barry Barton's uncle has been doing quite a lot of research about Noah's Ark and trying to determine what's going on here. So very, very interesting place. Doug, do you want to talk about this a little bit? That's good. Okay. So last year, Doug took us up there, and he only took us a little ways up, and then he made us walk. And we walked, and we walked, and we walked, and then we were hailed on, and we had to cross a freezing river, and this time I said to Scott, we are not doing that again. We are going to get some Jeeps, and we are going to drive up there. So we got our Jeeps, and we got much further up into the cauldron, if you would. It's not really a volcano, but into that cradle than we had before, up to the waterfall. There's all of us there. And then some very brave souls. You can see them over there, and I was not part of them. But those very brave souls there, they went up even higher, up onto the hill where this big rock is and where there's a whole lot more stuff, and I don't know if you want to mention that.
Maybe I'll so my friends and I, when I was living there, we actually found this rock there on the right of the screen. And you can't really see it from this picture so well, but when you get close to it, it's carved on either side like the hull of a boat. And it's huge. You can't really tell the size of it there, but
You
it's
can see some
probably
little people there.
20, 25 feet high and probably 40, 30, 40 feet long. And it's sitting right above the place where would be the most logical place for the ark to end up and all the animals to walk out. So when we were crossing, we actually went up there 3-4 times and were exploring. And when we were crossing the valley, just went from a distance, I was like, man, that's an ark or a rock that kind of looks like the ark. And sure enough, we got there. And Mrs. White talks about how Noah's relatives lived in the place where the ark ended up. And we actually found, when I was living there, in a Soviet guidebook that the Soviets knew there was a lost civilization on this mountain, but had never really researched it. So anyway, it's kind of cool to think about that, this maybe was a place where the ark ended up, and that they actually, it seemed to us like they'd built some type of a Mount Rushmore-like type park for people that wanted to come back and recall the flood. And that's the point Mrs. White makes, that the people that didn't want to remember the flood moved down to the plain of Shinar, where they ended up building the Tower of Babel.
So this is a very high elevation. I think we get up to almost 8,000 feet. 10,000 feet, I'm so sorry, 10,000 feet. So it is a little exhausting walking up there. But anyhow, very interesting, and if you come with us, you'll be able to see it. This, you can see there's a waterfall. That's actually where we went, to the waterfall. You can see, I don't know, on the waterfall picture, that waterfall is huge because you can see the jeeps down the bottom, very small, but that's as far as we went and in that area. This is, I'll let you talk in a second, Evan. This is a picture that actually we didn't take this time, but I always put this picture in. And Scott, thank you for taking this picture, because we actually took this last year, and we were just Scott had just been sort of thinking about where the ark maybe had landed, and this is where we believe it had landed. That's that waterfall we're talking about, just sort of right in this. It landed twice. I mean, the Spirit of Prophecy says it sort of landed, and then it landed again. And we believe it's sort of probably cradled right here. And as he was thinking about that, the sunlight came out, and just sort of, you see how the sunlight's just sitting there, right where the ark would have been. And so we just love that picture. I use that picture over and over again.
And that gap in the clouds disappeared as soon as I took the
Just
picture.
like that. They were there and then they were gone. That's correct. Evan, did you want to say something?
Yes, I was going to talk about that waterfall in the river. So we were there, in the summer. But there's still a little bit of snow up there that was still slowly melting. So that waterfall is mostly it's freezing cold because it's all this freshly melted snow. And we had climbed up to one of the peaks to see that rock. And after hiking back down, it was pretty exhausting, and I'm all sweaty. So I ran over to the river and dunked my head in, and then I'm like, all right, now I'm freezing.
It's very cold. Doug made us cross it last time, so yeah. All right. That's why you go on a trip that's organized by me, not Doug, because you'll get the comfort. No, I'm just kidding. You go with Doug, you'll never go hungry, though. Doug makes sure you got food. So the other place we went to visit is Corvi Rop. So Corvi Rop is what Doug had mentioned earlier. This is where that missionary, actually was probably St. Gregory, was in the pit for 13 years. The king had banished him there. A lady from the village had kept him alive, and the king hadn't realized that. And this is sort of the start then of that whole concept of Armenia becoming a Christian nation. So they built this monastery actually in 642 AD. So again, you just think about that. I mean, this is so long ago. It's really hard to kind of wrap your mind around that. You can see, I think this is Kathy going down into the hole there. Mark and Lisa, of course, are always highly energetic, so they actually climbed the hill behind the monastery. I barely get to the monastery, but they climbed the hill behind it. That's fine. And then, but from the top here, it's fascinating because you can see 4 countries. So you in Armenia, you can see the border with Turkey, and you can see Turkey. You can see the border with Iran, and you can see the border with Azerbaijan, and it's all right there. You're sort of right on that corner, and you get to see all 4, and that's sort of what the picture is below there. It's a very, very interesting place to visit. We also went to Garni. Garni is, I think it's to the northeast of Yerevan. not very far, maybe hour and a half at the most. And there's two things you see there. One is you go to this. This is a pagan sun god temple. It's from the 1st century AD. Just fascinating place to visit, just because of the history. It eventually became a Christian site, but that was initially a sun god temple. And then you go and see Gerhardt Monastery, which was built in the 4th century. And this is a monastery that has been carved into the mountain. And the top part of the monastery, above this building here, there's actually a place you can go, and Doug and everybody goes and sings up there because the acoustics are pretty amazing. But another really, really interesting place to visit. The other thing is the group. What happened is, because we had a large group, we split the group in half. So week 1, we all were in Yerevan, but we went to different places. Week 2, some of us went up 3 hours north to Alaverde, and some stayed in Yerevan. And the ones that stayed went and saw the Armenian Apostolic Church headquarters. So this would be like visiting the Mormon tabernacle in Salt Lake City. Same kind of concept, except this one was built in 303 AD. So a little while ago when the country became Christian. But a very interesting place to go and visit right in Yerevan. We also went and visited the Genocide Museum, and we do this every time we're there, and if you join us, we would do this again for sure. For those of you who are familiar with the Armenian genocide that took place, just millions of people were very brutally killed. Very somber place to visit, but just absolutely a must. And they have an eternal flame down in the memorial down the bottom. It also gives you a beautiful view of Yerevan. And Anna, if you don't mind, last year when we were here, Anne went in, and of course she's been told the story about her grandmother and how her grandmother escaped from a particular village in Armenia during the genocide. And as she was going through the museum, she found the write-up of that village where her grandmother escaped from, so it had extra meaning for her. But a very somber visit, but one that you definitely need to do. Belinda?
I think Evan also has, was it your great-grandmother?
So I found out after the fact, we're descended from her cousin, so.
Oh, okay.
But still, yeah.
Evan has a family member that also went through the genocide and who wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I have yet to read the book. I'm kind of, I know it'll make me really sad, but Scott read the book within a few days. He was so taken by it. And of course, he had already heard my stories and then read the stories that were in the museum. And it's very impactful, very powerful.
And also in the museum too, they have like the whole thing. It's a big spiraling, internal structure, and there's just these big plaques with all these text, and they have some videos playing. But just going through trying to read all the text, we were there like an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah. Right,
yeah. And I mean, maybe with like 50 entries, I managed to make it to 25. Like, there's just, it's like a whole day if you want to see everything there. So next time we go, I'm going to have to pick up where I left off.
I like it. I like to hear that. So we'll take you next year.
I was just going to add to that, too, that on the bus, I read that book about your relatives, Anderson. It was just horrific. And then you read the stories on the walls that Evan's describing and it's just, you can hardly stomach what happened.
I just want to say I recently watched a documentary about a new area in Poland where they had death camps, so that they're starting to excavate. And they talked about how quick the Nazis killed people, and they wanted it efficient. And maybe it was even a blessing to the people that were able to go so quickly. But when you go to the Genocide Museum and you hear the stories about the women and children that were put on death marches in chains and dragged through the desert, and they would drop off one by one, they would watch their children die. Some of them were so distraught if they got loose from the chains, so some of them would throw themselves off of a mountain with their children to save them from just dying slowly. They would just throw themselves over cliffs.
Okay.
Oops.
Do you think you'll be able to manage that drain at home? I can show you. And I'll, never mind.
I'll put the stuff in the paper anyhow. But you know, JP drains are easy to
Can you
tap.
put the Zoom off, please?
Done nursing in a long time,
That's
but it's not.
Zoom.
I was taking care of his foot and stuff, so.
That's more complicated.
So we have some people on
So I'll work
Zoom.
on everything.
Oh, okay.
A couple of our church members. I think that's probably Stephanie, isn't it? Steve just had surgery yesterday, so I'm sure they're
Yeah.
talking about some
Yeah,
type of medical.
sorry about that. Okay.
thing with him.
So actually, that's a great segue, if that was Stephanie. We are, unfortunately, Steve and Stephanie are not with us today because Steve did have surgery yesterday. He's doing well. But this is another visit we did, was to the Cascades, which is sort of a building that's been built up against the mountain in Yerevan, some really interesting place to visit and a nice view. Most of the folk walked up the stairs, but then Steve, Stephanie, me, and a couple of others, we did the escalator. It was much better. And then we looked at all the nice art inside. So they were outside sweating, and we were in air conditioning looking at the art. And you can see we took a lovely picture of Steve and Stephanie. I will always take the easy way, don't worry. So again, if you come with me and you don't want to do something too strenuous, you just hang out and you'll be fine. You'll just be fine.
Well, an interesting piece of history from the Cascades, too, was it was originally an art installation funded by an American Armenian businessman.
Yep.
And we learned it's actually incomplete at the very top. If you were to keep going up, it's still an ongoing construction site, but it's been left dormant because many of the funds were being embellished from the construction company.
Yep.
And so it looks really cool from down there, but when you reach the very top, it's this big flat construction area that's just been left to sit.
That's correct. That is correct.
Maybe I'll just comment on that. But to tell you what a small world it is, the businessman that sponsored this actually also refurbished the merry-go-round that I used to ride on in St. Paul, Minnesota. He actually is from St. Paul, Minnesota, and when I would go visit my grandparents, it turns out I saw his name when I went back to visit there, and it's the same guy that donated money to this. And he had never been to Armenia, but there are 12 million Armenians in the world, and only 3 million of them live there. There's a huge diaspora, and they all view Armenia as, through the lens of the genocide, obviously, that they want it to do well. So he gave, I think, over $10 million to do this.
Well, we have about, 5 or 6 Armenians right here, Armenian descendants right in this room today. So, all right. I wanted to show you this picture because I keep talking that we went 3.5 hours north to Alaverde and did a flag camp there. This is sort of the topography up there in that part of the world, very mountainous, very beautiful. They actually call it sort of the Switzerland of Armenia. Very unusual, also has some of these flat areas on top of mountain. Very, very interesting area. And so while we were up there, we did a couple of things as well. I'll go through this very quickly. We visited Sanahim Monastery, which was much newer. I mean, I don't know why we even bothered, because it was only built in the 10th century. So, I mean, it was just not really old enough. I'm just kidding. But this one had a lot of actual meaning for the group, because Arman, who you can see between League and I there, standing in the light blue shirt, his family is actually all buried here. He had a very prominent family in this area, and they all buried right in the grounds of this monastery, and so it had a real personal impact to all of us to visit there. We also went to the Mikoyan Brothers Museum. So the two brothers, the Mikoyan brothers, one of them invented the MiG jet. So he was that, and he grew up in this area. They were Armenian. And we went and visited that. They got a MiG standing right there. We all got a chance to see that. And Doug had a wonderful conversation with this lady. I believe she is the niece?
First cousin once removed.
Oh, first cousin once removed. There you go. He had the conversation in Russian, and we clearly weren't part of that. But they had a really nice chat and went through the museum together, and it's always nice to visit somewhere where somebody is related.
And just on that topic, so everybody knows about Mikoyan, who invented the MiG jet, which we've always been as our main enemy as a Air Force here in America. But his brother was a diplomat, and he started off with Lenin, and he was the only diplomat of the Soviet Union to make it all the way to Brezhnev without getting killed by Stalin or anybody else. So They had a car that he used to ride in. It's just very interesting, and both these brothers grew up right here and attended the school that actually Armand's relatives attended and used to teach at.
Yeah,
So
it's a small little village, and it's very, very fascinating. Also went and saw this monastery on the hill, Hagpat Monastery, again, 10th century. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but again, just seeing these old places, and when you explore through here, it's not just one building, there's multiple buildings, there's grounds, there's just fascinating things to see. We took one day, towards the end of the last week we were there, and Steve Yost was just determined to get to Georgia. He kept saying, I want to go to Tbilisi, I want to go to Tbilisi. So we were already in Alaverdi, and Tbilisi was only about another 3 hours north. So we got into the bus early in the morning, and off we went to Tbilisi, Georgia. Decided to cross the border and go. And you can see this is Tbilisi, beautiful river, the Friendship Bridge that they have there. And it's just a beautiful city. And it's definitely worth a day trip. And for anybody going, you could check another country off your list as well, because you'd be in Georgia. You can see the Friendship Bridge. You can see all of us standing there having a quick photo. And the thing that was the highlight of my trip to Georgia, because I've been there before, my highlight was I got my fresh squeezed pomegranate juice. There is nothing in the world better than fresh squeezed pomegranate juice, and we got that. That was great.
I was just going to say about that bridge. It's called the Peace Bridge because
Peace Bridge, sorry.
every night what they do, they send off a signal in Morse code of all the elements, Mendelev's chemical elements, showing that we are all humanity's made of the same substance, and therefore we should treat each other equally. And so every night you can hear Morse code, all the elements of the chemical table are sounded off on that bridge.
And this is Freedom Square, right? And then the Turkish baths and so forth. I'm just showing you a couple of pictures, but a beautiful little city to go and visit for a day. And we had lunch there with all Doug's old friends, because Doug used to live here. So I think we added probably another 20 to our group that day and had a big lunch together and got to say hello to everybody. A lot of them we had met last year when we were there. So on our way back that night, we just barely made it to Lake Savan, which is a huge lake there in Armenia. And last year we had visited it in the morning, and this time we had just made it before the sun went down. Just absolutely gorgeous. It's a huge lake, and it was just lovely to see it at sunset. You can see it's just a really beautiful, beautiful area. So I can't leave talking about Armenia without talking a little bit about the food. I'll tell you, you have never tasted fruits and vegetables quite this good. American fruits and vegetables just pale in comparison. This is straight from the farm. I think all of you can attest to that. The tomatoes actually taste like tomatoes.
Tomatoes are better.
The fruit is really good. And there's always food. There's always food. There's never a lack of food, except for the guys. They were eating at 11 o'clock at night at who knows where, yeah. Queen Burger, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we won't tell them about that too much. So.
Well, something else too, I noticed there's a lot of fruits and vegetables, not a whole lot of spicy stuff though.
No.
While we were at the Ararat church, actually, one of the elders, she took us out into the garden they had right by their church. We were going around, and she gave us some clippings of rosemary, and she said, "Careful, it's spicy."
Yeah, that's probably about right, yeah.
And that kind of sums up what the spice tolerance of the area is mostly like. It's
mostly, yeah.
The apricots were just to die for, and they were everywhere on the streets, people selling them. And
I don't think I've eaten that many apricots in a long time.
I've never had that many in my life either, but they were so sweet.
Yeah, absolutely lovely. So this is that full circle story that Doug was telling you a little bit about the Syrians and Olia. And on the last Friday we were there, we went and had dinner at their house in Devine. And this was very impactful to a number of the group members. And if Stephanie was here, she would tell you a little bit about her thoughts on that. But this is the group. You can see the family there. And this is their house. Nothing special. Actually, the house is pretty unfinished inside and out. The bathroom is outside. And so very humble abode, but they set up this table, and the food kept coming, and the food kept coming. And I put that picture of Stephanie and Kathy there because the one thing Stephanie said to me while she's sitting there, she said, you know, here in America, we sometimes are so scared to have people over to our house because it's not perfect. Oh, we need to paint that wall, or we haven't done that renovation, or we need to get this, or we need to do that. And it seems to be such a big deal. And here's these people, you can see behind, their walls aren't painted, the house is, I think it wasn't even a floor in some of the rooms, it was just rocks. But the food was amazing, and the company was even better. And it's just hospitality. That's what's important. It's communing with each other. It's being in fellowship with each other. And I think we could learn a lot from that. And we had an absolute amazing time. And we thank Doug for introducing us to them. Just wonderful people. But they did sing a song about Nineveh. I did not put that video in, but we did have to hear a song about Nineveh while we were there. We also did an anointing. Actually, we did 2 anointings when we were there. That's another thing I didn't put in here, but we did actually do a number of oil anointings while we were there. A number of people needed to be prayed for. So the most important thing, I just wanted to end on this slide, is the friendships that was mentioned earlier. People just really are very, very kind, very, very friendly. Leif Brahmi, who told us he doesn't like children. Yeah, well, he may not, but they like him. He had them on his lap. He had them it was quite something. He was playing games with them. Scott reunioned with his old friend from last year. We had all the ladies from the Health Expo. It was just really good. And those are the friendships, and those are the memories that stay. And we're friends with a lot of these people on Facebook, and we will see them again when we're there.
I just wanted to mention, before we cover up all the pictures, the girl that's smiling at Leif there, her name was Rusan. And I remembered her because you mentioned something before about we remembered some of the kids from last year. For whatever reason, maybe because her name was a little different, but I remembered her name. And you could see she had a big smile in that picture when she was talking to Leif. And she was also the one that was choking me over there in the other picture. But anyway, when I remembered her name, and this is a reason to think about keeping our relationships, maintaining them with them. Not only our workers there, our people, SDAs there, but the children. It's great that we got this time to do some flag camps in new places, but also to return to where we've done before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I saw this little girl, and I remembered that her name was Rusan, it's impossible to explain how her face exploded with joy that I remembered her, and I remembered her name.
Yeah, means a lot to them. So we have some people on Zoom with us. They've actually been in the background. You heard them a little earlier. Steve, good to see you. Great to see Steve. That is commitment when you come to us from your hospital bed. Leif, good to see you. Ben, I see Ben's on. We just don't see his face. I see Michael Hart. Micah. Oh, there's Ben. There we go. And Armand. I don't know if Armand's going to show us his face or he's going to stop. There we go. Perfect. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Do we have sound for them? Does anybody want to say anything from your group there? Okay, just let's get some sound. You'll have to put yourselves off mute, though, if you want to say something. Anybody? You just pretty faces today?
Don't be shy.
I just have to say something real quick. See Leif's big grin there?
Yeah.
He was grinning like that when he was playing Goliath.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Leif, I don't think Goliath was supposed to be grinning when he was threatening the children of Israel.
Maybe. You never know. You never know. So.
I'll just say something. Since we have now you can see all the boys, and then we had Emma along. And Armand, you can, confirm this, but I mean, part of why it was fun to have Michael there is that Michael was about 3 years old when we left. So he was about this tall when we left there, so people got to see him, and he was 2 inches taller than me. It was kind of amazing. But I got comments all the time from the Armenians. It's so nice to see your youth just sold out for the mission and helping our kids. And they were so impressed with all of them. And they all did such a great job. We haven't said much about League, but League was the master number memorizer in our Armenian numbers. And so when we played games, he would call it all out in Armenian, and they were so impressed. And it was just a lot of fun watching the kids interact with them, and then watching our guys interact with each other on the trip. It was just really impressive.
Do we have sound if anybody wants to say anything? Mark, are they? But can they say something?
Mike is unmuted, but his audio's not.
No, Mike is. I can't hear Micah, so is the sound on?
Can you get them so they can speak, Mark?
Oh, there we go.
Hello.
There we go.
Oh, okay. So one very memorable thing from the mission trip for me was being able to connect with these people despite the language barrier. When that happened, it was just great. It was just so cool to see that.
Yeah.
Like, the kids ask you a question about soccer, and then it's all Armenian, and then you hear, like, Ronaldo, Messi, and it's like, oh, I know those words. I know what you're asking me. And just little things like that, and, like, the games that we played, and just little moments of connection, despite this. That was just a really cool experience.
Yep. It's good for them to see that we're normal, and I think that really helps. Armand, do you want to say hi to everybody? This is your church.
Yes. Nice to meet you. I miss you all, and thank you for opportunity to know you and spend the time with you.
So Armand's obviously one of the missionaries that we support there, and so you will see him from time to time, and he's working very hard to grow our church there. Yeah. All right, anybody else want to say anything with you guys?
Yeah.
Michael.
I have a very nice memory from Alaverdi. The kids there were super nice. I wanted to take photos, and I would say something in Russian, and then their face would just light up. And they'd be like, oh, ты знаешь русский, which means like, do you know Russian? And it was just really cool to have that connection with them.
Absolutely. That's great. That is really great.
I'm so glad to hear that, Michael. We've told you to learn Russian your whole life.
Now it's cool. All right. Can we go back to the last slide that I had on the presentation quickly? And then just before, as he's doing that, I just wanted Lisa to just talk just for 2 minutes about the medical clinics, if you don't mind, a little bit. I didn't have pictures of the medical clinic. We went in to take pictures of patients, but...
Yeah, super quick. So the healthcare system in Armenia isn't bad. In Yerevan, it's great. They have lots of care. If you're under 18, it's free, and it's affordable there. However, in the little villages, they don't even have a primary care doctor, so I just did a lot of blood pressure checks, glucose checks. I had a translator who was a medical student. And it was nice to make an impact on the community. I felt like they got a taste of Adventist that wasn't a weirdo sect. And I got paid in apricots and pastries, so that was fun.
And one of our members donated a whole lot of magnifier glasses, just magnifiers. And sorry, I wanted to ask Lisa. Lisa, those glasses were a real hit, right? Those magnifying glasses.
Huge hit.
Yeah. Everybody over 40 left with one of those. So.
By the way, we have to say hi to somebody on the screen.
Yes.
She just popped in. Silva is Armand's mother, and she became the mother/grandmother of our group on the trip. She always took care of us. It would be 9:30, 10 at night, and she'd say, okay, what can I feed you guys? And we're like, we're stuffed, we can't eat. And she'd walk off and get us something anyway and bring back food.
She also did all our laundry for us, which was really helpful.
So she always took care of us. So she was one of our favorites there in Armenia.
Yeah.
Did our laundry for us.
Yeah, laundry, exactly. All right, can you just pop to that last slide that I had on the presentation? And then I just want to put that in quickly, if it's not too hard, and then I want to cut the stream. I just wanted to keep this on right one time.
Well, let's explain that. So there's part of the trip we can't talk about while we're live streaming. So after Belinda talks about this, Evan went back to the booth. He's going to cut off the live stream, and then we'll talk about part of our trip that we did.
There we go. So just before we cut the stream, because I want the people on streaming to just know, I just want to let you know there will be a repeat of this. Depending on how many people we have will depend on how many flag camps we can do. We can always split the group more and more and do more. Next year, July 5 through 19, mark your calendar. You can still do 4th of July at home. We only leave on the 5th. Please come and join us. We would be happy to have you with us. If you have any more questions, you just ask me or any of these people. They all know, and we would just love to have you with us. All right, so as soon as streaming's cut, I'm hoping that's done. I wish I could get a